The newborn was lying outside the fire station at 2:17 in the morning, and my husband called right after that and told me not to put his name in the report. I remember the emergency doorbell cutting through the rainy night at Fire Station 18 in San Diego. It didn't sound like a fire alarm. It was shorter, sharper, like somebody had knocked directly on my spine. I was sitting in the break room with one hand on my 7-month pregnant belly and the other wrapped around a cup of hot chocolate that had gone cold after I had reheated it 3 times. My daughter had just kicked me under the ribs like she was already tired of this night shift too. Carla Ruiz lifted her head from the table, her messy bun half falling apart, sleep still stuck to her eyes. "Safe surrender?" she asked. I didn't answer. I was already standing. The garage door rolled open, and cold rain, wet concrete, and engine oil rushed inside. Under the weak yellow light outside the station, a gray car seat sat right beside the safe surrender sign. Inside was a tiny baby wrapped in a pale blue blanket, his face red from the cold, crying in a thin, weak little voice. My heart dropped straight into my stomach. It was pounding hard and messy, but not in that cute way people talk about when their boyfriend proposes. "Oh my God," I whispered. I knelt so fast my pregnant belly pulled tight and sent a sharp pain through my side. Carla grabbed my elbow, but I was already opening the blanket, checking his breathing, his color, his temperature. It was a baby boy, maybe only a few days old. He still smelled like milk, baby powder, and hospital air. "He's breathing," I said, forcing my voice steady. "Pulse is a little fast, cold but stable." "Anybody out there?" Lieutenant Mason called from behind me. I looked toward the street. Rain slanted through the streetlights. Water ran in crooked lines down the windshield of an SUV parked half a block away. Its lights were off. I couldn't see anyone. Inside the diaper bag next to the car seat were a bottle, 2 diapers, a little sleeper with tiny whales printed on it, and a folded piece of paper. I shouldn't have opened it before everything was documented. I should have waited for the police or the social worker. But when you're pregnant, kneeling in front of a baby abandoned in the rain, your brain doesn't work like a manual. It works like a mother. I unfolded the note. There was only one line, written in black ink, shaky but clear. "Tell Ryan Brooks he doesn't get to run this time." The whole world went quiet around me. What the hell was happening? For one stupid second, I thought maybe I had read it wrong, so I looked again. Ryan Brooks was my husband. Yes, him, the man who had kissed my belly before I left for work that night. The man who had said, "Be careful, Nat. You and the baby are my whole world." Apparently, his world was a lot more crowded than I thought. My phone buzzed in my jacket pocket. Ryan's name lit up on the screen. I looked at the baby, then at the note, then at my phone where my husband's profile picture smiled back at me with that gentle, trustworthy face church ladies always called a good man. I answered. "Natalie," he said immediately. "No hello. No are you okay?" His voice was low and urgent, but not panicked. That was what chilled me. "Listen to me. Don't make this bigger than it is." I stood frozen under the awning while rain slapped against the shoulder of my uniform. "How do you know anything happened?" There was a silence, a very short one, too short. "If there's a note," Ryan said, "give it to me, right now." Behind me, the baby started crying louder. That tiny sound tore through the night like an accusation. Carla looked at me. "Nat?" I tightened my fist around the paper. "Out on the street?" The dark SUV finally started. Then it slowly rolled away through the rain. And for the first time in my marriage, I understood that the person in danger wasn't only the baby in front of me. It was me. It was my unborn daughter. And maybe it was the woman who had just left her child here because she believed a fire station was safer than my husband. Ryan walked into the fire station 12 minutes after that phone call. So fast I didn't know whether to fear him or fear the San Diego traffic system for secretly serving liars. I was sitting at the medical table, documenting the baby's condition exactly by protocol. The little boy was wrapped in a thermal blanket now, his cheeks less blue, his tiny hand gripping my finger like I was the only thing in that room that had no plans to betray anyone. Carla stood by the door, her eyes locked on Ryan as he crossed the garage in a rain-dark coat, wet hair and a face that was still disgustingly calm. "Natalie," he said. "Not, how's the baby?" Not, "Are you okay?" Not even, Why is my name inside the diaper bag of a newborn abandoned at midnight? Honestly, disappointing. I had a few sarcastic answers ready, and he couldn't even ask the right question. You can't come into the processing area, I said. Ryan looked around. Lieutenant Mason was on the phone with social services. Another firefighter was checking the outside camera. Nobody said a word, but the air was so tight I could hear my own heartbeat. Sweat started sliding down my back too, which felt rude, considering I was already having a crisis. I'm her husband, Ryan told Carla. Carla crossed her arms. Great, I like burritos after a shift. Neither of those facts gives you permission to walk in here. I almost laughed. Almost. But Ryan was looking at me with eyes I used to think were loving. Now I realized they looked more like the eyes of a man assessing damage. Come outside and talk to me, he said quietly. I'm working. Nat, this is family. Family. The word slipped out of his mouth and I let out this little breath through my nose. It sounded fake, so fake it almost had packaging. I looked at the baby. He yawned softly, his lips trembling. Inside me, my daughter gave one slow kick, as if she was voting against her father too. No, I said. This is a child surrendered under safe surrender. There's a report, there's evidence, there's procedure. Ryan's eyes darkened. You don't understand who she is. She? I wanted to ask, do you love her? But what came out of my mouth was, did you eat dinner? I know. Stupid. But sometimes a betrayed brain doesn't follow a logical route. It rolls around like a shopping cart with one broken wheel. Ryan went quiet. That was his first mistake of the night. Or at least the first one I caught. I set my pen down. You know the baby's mother? Ryan stepped closer, lowering his voice. A girl named Mia. She's unstable. She came through my organization. I tried to help her, but she got attached, made things up, started threatening my campaign. And that's why she left her baby outside my station with your name in the diaper bag? Natalie, you're pregnant, you're tired, you're easily overwhelmed. That sentence hit me straight in the chest. Not because it was true. Because he knew I was afraid of it. After my miscarriage last year, after those months sitting on the bathroom floor holding a pregnancy test like it was a tiny bomb, Ryan was the only person who heard me say, I'm scared people will think I'm weaker now. And now he was using that exact fear to drag me down. Carla took one step forward. Mr. Brooks, I think you should leave. Ryan didn't look at her. He only looked at my hand. Where's the note? I slowly opened the metal drawer beside me, took out the sealed evidence bag and held it up. The note was inside, flat, cold, and very real. Ryan's face changed, just a little, but enough. Give it to me, he said. No. You don't know what you're doing. I stood. My belly was heavy, my back hurt, and my eyes burned from lack of sleep. But my voice didn't shake. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm protecting a baby. Ryan leaned closer, his voice so low only I could hear him. If you turn this into a scandal, Natalie, you won't just ruin my life. You'll ruin our family. Right then, the social services worker walked through the door, and Ryan smiled. Immediately. A gentle, decent, trustworthy smile. The smile I had married. I looked at it and felt cold all over because I finally understood. This man wasn't panicking because he had been caught. He was just figuring out which role to play next. And honestly, if you had asked me right then what he would do next, I would have guessed he'd find an even more dramatic excuse. I really would have. My mother-in-law was sitting in my kitchen at 4 a.m, and that was how I knew Ryan had not only lied to me. He had called in reinforcements. The kitchen light in our North Park house glowed a weak yellow over the white stone counter, making it look as cold as an exam room. Evelyn Brooks sat perfectly straight beside a pot of chamomile tea, her silver hair smooth, her cream cardigan without a single wrinkle. That woman could sit through an earthquake and still look like she was about to be photographed for the church bulletin. I walked in with my belly heavy, my back aching, my uniform still smelling like rain and engine oil from the station. My daughter had gone strangely quiet inside me. Maybe she could feel there was something in the house more dangerous than sleep deprivation. Natalie, Evelyn said, in the tone she might use if she had caught me sneaking a cookie. Not if her son had called her over to manage a newborn abandoned in the rain with his name attached to it. You need to sit down. Great, I said. I thought after receiving a newborn at the fire station, what I really needed was a lecture at 4 a.m. She did not laugh. Ryan stood near the window with his hands in his pockets. He had changed shirts, dried his hair, and washed his face. Clean. Too clean. It made me genuinely hate looking at him. He looked like he had just finished filming an ad for a charity. "You shouldn't be stressing yourself out," Ryan said. I looked at him. "Then you probably shouldn't have cheated with a girl named Mia and let her baby show up at my workplace." Silence. One whole second of it. Evelyn set her teacup down. The porcelain barely clicked against the counter, but it sounded like a hammer. "You don't know the whole story." "Then tell it." Ryan looked at his mother. Evelyn opened her brown leather purse, pulled out a thin stack of papers, and slid it toward me. I didn't touch it. "What is that?" "A statement," she said, "saying that tonight an unstable young woman created a misunderstanding. That this family is not involved, that you in your current pregnant and exhausted state may have overreacted." I looked at the first line. My name was already typed out. Natalie Brooks. My throat tightened, but I still laughed once. Short and dry. "Wow, you already typed my name." Thoughtful. "All that's missing is a threatening muffin, and we'd have the full package." Ryan's face hardened. "Don't make this harder." "This?" I put a hand on my belly and felt a small kick. "Are we talking about the baby left in the rain or the fact that your name was on the note?" Evelyn leaned forward. "Ryan is at a very important point in his life. Bad people will use anything to destroy a good man." I looked at her. Good men usually don't need their mothers to draft statements for their wives before sunrise. This time, Evelyn's eyes went cold. Ryan stepped closer. "If you don't sign, I'll have to tell your doctor you haven't been sleeping, that you're panicking, obsessing over something that happened at work. I don't want you continuing on duty like this." That was a threat. No yelling, no slam doors, just taking my pregnancy, my job, my sanity, and placing all of it on the table like belongings he had the right to confiscate. I picked up the papers, folded them slowly in half, and placed them back in front of Evelyn. "I'm not signing." Ryan exhaled like I was a stubborn child refusing to put on a jacket. I went into the bedroom and locked the door. My hands shook so badly I had to sit on the edge of the bed. In the bathroom, the shower turned on. Ryan was showering. After that night, he could still shower. I looked at the pants he had draped over the chair. I hated myself for doing it. Then I did it anyway. Inside his wallet was a motel receipt from Chula Vista, paid in cash. One corner was wrinkled. Across it, written in blue pen, were the words, "Mia L. Room 214. I stood there, listening to water run behind the bathroom door, and for the first time I understood something. Ryan wasn't afraid of one lie being exposed. He was afraid I would find the woman who was still alive enough to tell the truth. I got to the motel in Chula Vista at 6:38 in the morning, 7 months pregnant, dark circles under my eyes like a raccoon, with a plan so stupid that if Carla knew about it, she would shove me into an ambulance and drive it herself. The motel sat beside a busy road, its red vacancy sign blinking even though the sun was already up. Last night's rain had left gray puddles across the parking lot. A taco truck was opening across the street, and the smell of grilled onions and cheap coffee drifted through the cold air. Normally, I would have been hungry. That morning, my stomach just folded in on itself like it was trying to escape my life. I sat in the car for 3 more minutes, one hand on my belly. "Okay," I whispered to my daughter. "I know this is not prenatal yoga, but we're going to breathe." She kicked me. I chose to take that as agreement, though there was a strong chance she was just objecting to her entire paternal family. Room 214 was on the 2nd floor, at the end of an outdoor hallway. The door was already cracked open. A Mexican housekeeper stood beside a cart of towels, keys in her hand, looking me up and down. "What do you need?" she asked. I thought about lying. But between the fire station uniform still in the back of my car, my very obvious pregnant belly, and my sleep-deprived face, lying would have only made me look like a side character in a bad crime movie. "I'm looking for a woman named Mia," I said. "Was she in this room?" The housekeeper looked into the room, then back at me. Her eyes softened a little. "She left before dawn." "Was she alone?" The woman went quiet. I stepped closer. "I'm not the police. I just need to know if she was alive." That made her stop. "She was alive when she left," she said quietly, "but very scared." My heart punched against my ribs. she let me look inside the room, maybe because she felt sorry for my belly, or maybe because women sometimes recognize each other in situations nobody can explain. The room smelled like cheap disinfectant, baby formula, and panic. The sheets were pulled half off the bed. In the trash were an opened can of formula, tissues with faint pink smears, and one tiny newborn sock without its match. On the bedside table was a small card with the logo for Harbor Mothers Initiative. I picked it up. Under the words, "You are not alone," was Ryan's office number. I laughed very quietly, not because it was funny. It was the kind of laugh your brain makes when it sees too much ugliness in one motel room and decides, fine, laugh for 1 second before you explode. "Did anyone come to see her?" I asked. The housekeeper pulled her towel cart closer and lowered her voice. "A man. Navy suit. Very polite. Paid cash." I closed my eyes and tried to picture the suit. Ryan had a navy suit. I had picked the tie for it. Was he here last night? Yes. They argued, but quietly. Not yelling. The kind of arguing that's worse than yelling. I understood. I had been married to that voice. When I got back to my car, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I opened the message with ice-cold hands. "If you're Ryan's wife, you're not safe, but my baby might still be." I looked up at room 214. The thin curtain shifted behind the dirty glass. Inside me, my daughter kicked again. This time, I didn't need to pretend I understood. She was telling me not to go home. "And if it were you, what would you do right then?" "Me?" I listened to my daughter and decided to find out the truth. I met the person who texted me behind a laundromat in National City, where the smell of detergent, exhaust, and morning desperation hung in the air. The parking lot was almost empty. A vending machine buzzed in the corner. Through the steamy glass, clothes tumbled in dryers, looking so normal it made me angry. My life had just cracked in half, and the dryers were still spinning like nothing happened. Very cold. Very efficient. I was jealous. I parked where I could see the exit. One hand stayed on my belly, and my phone was open to Carla's number. If someone rushed me, I wasn't sure I could run faster than a pregnant duck, but at least I could scream with technical skill. A girl stepped out from the alley beside the laundromat. Not Mia. She was in her early 20s, brown hair tied low, oversized gray hoodie, dark circles under her eyes. She stopped a few feet from my car with both hands tucked into her pockets, like she was afraid the air might bite her. "Are you Natalie?" she asked. I rolled the window down halfway. "Are you the one who texted me?" "Tessa. I used to be Mia's roommate." I looked around. "Where is Mia?" Tessa bit her lip. "I don't know. She disappeared after she left the baby at your station." That sentence pierced me. The baby. Not the child. Not the problem. A tiny person being dragged through adult lies. I got out of the car slowly, and my belly made every movement look ridiculously formal, like I was accepting an award for worst life choices. "Why did you contact me?" I asked. Tessa swallowed. "Because Mia said if something happened, the only person who might understand was his wife." I gave a dry laugh. Touching. I always dreamed my husband would become a bridge for sisterhood during an infidelity crisis. Tessa looked down. "I know you have every right to hate her." "I haven't decided yet. My schedule's a little full. Betrayal, threats, and a fetus kicking my bladder." This time Tessa almost smiled. Then her face fell again. "Mia didn't want to give up her baby," she said. "At first, Harbor Mothers really did help her. Rent, prenatal appointments, food. Ryan came around like he was saving her life. He told her she was smart, that she deserved a future, that she didn't have to be scared." I stood still. My chest hurt in a slow, heavy way. "And then they slept together?" Tessa nodded, avoiding my eyes. "Mia believed he was going to leave you. I know it sounds stupid, but she was 22, no family, no money, and Ryan, he knows how to talk." Yes, I knew. I had married the way he talked. Tessa pulled a small black USB drive from her hoodie pocket. Her hand was shaking. "When Mia gave birth, Ryan changed. He told her to sign papers for a couple to adopt the baby. Rich people, campaign donors. Evelyn came too. She said Mia was unstable, and if she fought them, they'd build a file showing she should lose the baby forever." My mother-in-law's name landed like a nail in my skull. I took the USB. It was absurdly light, something no bigger than a thumbnail, and it could blow up my whole marriage. "What's on it?" Voice messages, pictures of documents, a video from the motel. Tessa looked straight at me. "Mia left it for you. She said you were being lied to too." I wanted to say no. I wanted to say I was different from Mia. I was the wife. I had a house, a ring, a baby in my belly. But in that moment, I realized Ryan had used the same weapon on both of us: fear. With Mia, he used her fear of losing her child. With me, he used my fear of not being believed as a sane mother. I tightened my hand around the USB. Tessa looked past my shoulder and her face went pale. "You're being followed." I turned. A black sedan was parked across the street, tinted windows, engine running, and I recognized that car. It belonged to Ryan's campaign office. The black sedan followed me for 3 intersections, and I was too pregnant for a car chase, but angry enough to consider lightly denting someone's dignity. I didn't drive home. I didn't go straight back to the station either. I pulled into the parking lot of a Ralph's on Highland Avenue, chose a spot near the security cameras, and sat still with both hands on the steering wheel. The sedan rolled past slowly and stopped at the far end of the lot. I watched it in my rearview mirror. "Okay, baby girl," I whispered to my belly. "Today's lesson: when you see a suspicious car, don't play hero. Call someone with a gun. Or Carla. Sometimes Carla is scarier than a gun." I called Carla. She answered on the second ring. "If you're calling to tell me you went to that Chula Vista motel alone, I'm gonna yell so loud your baby learns Spanish." Too late for the yelling part. "I'm at Ralph's. There's a car following me." Her voice changed immediately. "Stay there. Send me your location." While I waited, I plugged the USB into the old laptop I kept in my work bag. The screen lit up, reflecting my face back at me. Pale, exhausted, messy hair, red eyes. I looked like the before picture in an ad for vitamins made for women betrayed by their husbands. The USB had 3 folders: messages, images, audio. I opened the first file. Mia's voice came through, small and shaking, with a newborn crying in the background. "If you're hearing this, I'm sorry. I know you're his wife. I know I was wrong, but Ryan told me his marriage was over. He told me he only had to get through the election and then he'd divorce you. I believed him. I was stupid, but I wasn't cruel." I closed my eyes. I wanted to hate her. Hate would have been easier. Hate is like a thick coat in cold weather. But her voice didn't sound like someone who had won. It sounded like a girl trapped inside her own mistake, looking for a door. The next file was a photograph of paperwork, a private adoption agreement. The couple named as the adoptive parents were Preston and Elaine Whitaker. I knew that name. They were Ryan's biggest campaign donors. Then there was a screenshot of a text from Ryan. "Sign it. You don't have money, a home, or a lawyer. If you love your son, don't make him a victim of your life." My belly tightened. My daughter kicked so hard I had to put my hand over her. "Yeah," I whispered. "Mom wants to kick him too." An email popped up on my phone. From Lieutenant Mason. "Natalie, I need you back at the station immediately. There's been a formal complaint that you personally interfered in the safe surrender case. Sender is Ryan Brooks." I read it again and again until the words started to blur. Ryan hadn't waited. He had struck first. Another message appeared, this one from my OB's office. "Dr. Elaine Carter would like to speak with you regarding an email of concern from your husband about recent stress and sleep issues." I laughed. A dry, painful sound caught in my throat. Ryan was building the stage. I would be the unstable pregnant wife, the emotional firefighter, the jealous woman seeing an affair inside an abandoned baby case. At the far end of the lot, the sedan door suddenly opened. A man in a black jacket stepped out. At that exact moment, Carla's pickup screeched to a stop beside me. She rolled down her window, looked at the man, then at me. "Get in," Carla said. "And next time you decide to expose a dirty adoption scheme, at least buy me breakfast first." I grabbed the USB, opened my car door, and for the first time that day, I felt like I wasn't completely alone. The moment I walked back into the fire station, I saw my mother-in-law standing in the middle of the garage with a loaf of banana bread and the smile of a woman who had hidden a knife under a napkin. Evelyn Brooks wore a pale blue dress, pearls at her throat, and carried the loaf like she had come to visit her pregnant daughter-in-law, not to turn a crime scene into proof that I was losing control. Lieutenant Mason stood beside the engine with an uncomfortable look on his face. 2 of my coworkers pretended to check equipment, but their ears were basically standing upright. Firefighters can run into burning buildings, but family drama in the garage at 9 a.m. will still scare everybody a little. "Natalie, Evelyn said, her voice so sweet I wanted to test the air for artificial sugar. I'm just worried about you. Carla stepped down from the truck behind me and muttered, "Oh, great. Gaslighting banana bread." I almost laughed. Almost. Then I saw Ryan inside the glass office, talking to Mason with a stack of papers in his hand. He had changed into another suit. Navy, of course. If betrayal had a uniform, Ryan had bought the whole closet. I walked straight in. Mason looked at me with an expression that was both sympathetic and serious. "Brooks, there's a complaint saying you conducted your own investigation into a safe surrender case for personal reasons." Ryan turned toward me. "I didn't want to do this, Nat. And yet you did it very quickly." His jaw tightened. "I'm trying to protect you." I set my work bag on the desk and pulled out the printed stack I had prepared. Shift log. Time the bell rang. The baby's medical report. A photo of the evidence bag with the note inside. Ryan's call history. A photo of the motel receipt. I didn't throw them down. I laid each page out neatly, one by one, because my job had taught me something. When everything is burning, you don't run wild. You find the source of the fire. "These are the things I did according to procedure," I told Mason. "And these are the things my husband did outside of it." Ryan looked at the papers, and his smile disappeared. Carla stood behind me, arms crossed. I was present when the baby was found. Natalie sealed the note before Mr. Brooks arrived. He asked for it. Mason looked at Ryan. The air in the room shifted, just a little, but enough for me to breathe. My phone rang. A familiar number appeared. Detective Angela Ramirez. I had texted her on the way to the station with a short explanation and photos from the USB. I answered and put her on speaker. "Natalie," Ramirez said, sharp and calm. "I've reviewed what you sent. Do not hand over the original USB to anyone without an official receipt. I'm opening an inquiry into Harbor Mother's initiative." Ryan went pale. Evelyn walked in right then, still holding the banana bread. "This is so unnecessary. Natalie is under so much stress because of the pregnancy." Carla looked at the loaf. "If you call her hormonal one more time, I'm going to ask them to seal that banana bread as a soft weapon." This time, a firefighter outside the office laughed and then pretended to cough. I looked at Evelyn. "I'm not stressed because of pregnancy. I'm stressed because your family is trying to turn a baby into a transaction." My phone buzzed again. Tessa had sent a screenshot. Ryan's campaign donor list. The first name was Preston and Elaine Whitaker, the same couple listed in Mia's adoption papers. I looked up at Ryan, and for the first time he couldn't perform anymore. I almost said, "Go on, keep talking." But then I stopped, because I already knew what he would do next. Ryan handed me divorce papers in the storage room of the fire station. He closed the door behind him very softly. The kind of soft men use when they want to prove they're calmer than you, even though they're the ones who just set the whole house on fire. "I didn't want it to get to this," Ryan said. I looked at the papers in his hand. "Funny, divorce papers don't just grow out of the printer like mushrooms after rain." His eyes darkened. "You're destroying everything." "Me?" I laughed. "Ryan, a baby was left outside my station with your name in the diaper bag. You responded by calling your mother, threatening my doctor, filing a complaint with my superior, and now you're standing here with divorce papers like a FedEx driver from hell." "Listen to yourself," he said quietly. "This is exactly what I'm worried about. You're spiraling." I looked at him for a long time. That was the most painful moment. Not because he was lying. I already knew he was lying. It was because I realized he had rehearsed this in his head for a long time. He hadn't just betrayed me with another woman. He had prepared a way to make me look crazy if I ever found out. If anyone has ever been in that position, they know the pain. I mean that feeling of someone covering your mouth and nose, and then telling everyone you're overreacting because you can't breathe. If there had been one person beside me in that same kind of pain, I swear I would have held her and cried for an entire day. Ryan set the papers on the metal shelf. On the first page, under my name, were the words, "Unstable behavior during pregnancy." My throat went dry. "If you continue," he said, "my lawyer will ask the court to evaluate whether you can safely make decisions for our child." Our child. I placed my hand on my belly. My daughter was still, or maybe I was too afraid to feel her move. "You're threatening my right to be a mother?" Ryan exhaled. "I'm protecting my child." No, I said quietly. You're using her as a shield, and you're very good at it. His face hardened. For 1 second, the decent man vanished completely. All that was left was someone cold and angry because the puppet had started seeing the strings. You think Mia is going to save you? He said. She's a poor, panicked girl. No one is going to believe her. And you're a pregnant woman obsessing over your husband. You want to take that story to court? I wanted to slap him. Honestly, I wanted to do something very bad for the image of the calm mother courts seem to like, but instead I picked up the divorce papers and photographed every page with my phone. Ryan frowned. What are you doing? Saving memories, I said. Some women keep wedding photos. I keep evidence. He stepped toward me, but I stepped back and opened the door. Outside, Carla was standing 3 feet away with 2 paper cups of coffee. She looked at Ryan, then at me. I brought caffeine, she said, since apparently morality is out of stock. I laughed. Then the tears came right after it. I hated crying in front of Carla. She just handed me the coffee. She didn't hug me, didn't ask questions, didn't make me perform strength. I stood there in that storage room, surrounded by coats that smelled like smoke, and let myself fall apart for exactly 30 seconds. Then my phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. I'm outside your house. It's Mia. Please don't call Ryan. I looked up, and every pain in my body turned into action. I had to act, immediately. Mia stood outside my house with dried blood on her sleeve, and the first thing she said was, I'm not here to steal your husband. I'm here because I'm scared he's going to sell my baby. I froze in the doorway with one hand on my belly and my phone still in the other. The San Diego morning had fully arrived, but the 22-year-old girl in front of me looked like she had crawled out of a night with no exit. Oversized gray hoodie. Wet, stringy hair, cracked lips. Eyes so red, I couldn't tell how long she had been crying. For one ugly second, I wanted to hate her. I wanted to look at her and see only the woman who had slept with my husband. The woman who had listened to promises that should have belonged to me. The woman who had a baby with Ryan while I was carrying his daughter. But then she wrapped her arms around her stomach out of habit, even though she no longer had the baby in her arms. And my anger stalled. I opened the door wider. Come in. Mia stepped inside like she was afraid the floor might testify against her. I locked the door, pulled the living room curtains shut, and texted Carla and Detective Ramirez the same message. Mia is at my house, alive. Need help now. Mia sat on the edge of my couch, twisting her hands together. She looked at the wedding photo of Ryan and me on the shelf, then lowered her eyes. I'm sorry, she said. I know that sounds useless. Yeah, I said, but keep talking. Today I'm collecting useless and useful things. A tiny broken laugh slipped out of her. Then she told me. Ryan met her through Harbor Mothers when she was sleeping on a friend's couch. He took her to prenatal appointments, paid for the motel, bought food, told her she didn't have to be ashamed of one mistake. He told her our marriage was only a formality. He said once the campaign was over, he would leave me. Mia believed him. Because when you're hungry, exhausted, pregnant, and alone, a kind word can feel like God mailed it to the wrong address. After I gave birth, she said, her voice shaking, he brought me papers to sign. He said it was just for temporary care for the baby. But I saw the name Whitaker. When I asked, Evelyn told me I wasn't capable of being a mother. Evelyn's name chilled me. My mother-in-law came to the motel? Mia nodded. With a lawyer. She said if I didn't sign, they'd use my depression records, the motel bills, the fact that I didn't have stable insurance, everything to prove I was dangerous for my baby. I swallowed hard. My pain didn't disappear. It just had to step aside because the truth in front of me was bigger than my pride. Mia looked at my belly, and tears spilled down her face. I didn't know you were pregnant, I swear. I didn't know what to say. I believe you felt too easy. I forgive you was too soon. So I just handed her a tissue. Right now, I said, we keep you alive first. The emotional collapse can be scheduled for later. I'm booked until about never, but we'll figure it out. Carla arrived first. Detective Ramirez came 10 minutes later with a social worker named Helen. Mia handed over her phone, photos of paperwork, threatening messages, and the name of the lawyer who pressured her to sign. I handed over the USB copy, the motel receipt, Ryan's divorce papers, and everything else I had. That afternoon, Ryan held a small press conference outside his campaign office. I watched the live stream from Carla's truck. He stood in front of an American flag, face solemn, talking about family values and a smear campaign against people who do good work. Carla was eating chips beside me. If fake were an Olympic sport, he'd have the national anthem playing right now. Ryan had just placed a hand over his heart when the phones of the reporters on the live stream all started buzzing. One looked down, then another. Then the cameras started moving closer to Ryan. I watched his face go pale on the little screen, and for the first time in hours I could breathe. I tried to hide it and took one deep breath, then let it out slowly. I swear my lungs felt twice as big. Ryan didn't lose everything in one giant explosion. He lost it in 3 emails, 2 calls from lawyers, and 1 video that lasted 4 minutes and 12 seconds, and that he didn't delete in time. The next day, Ryan's campaign announced it was pausing operations to address a personal misunderstanding. I read that from the waiting room outside Detective Ramirez's office, one hand holding a cup of water, the other resting on my belly. A personal misunderstanding sounded like forgetting to buy milk, not pressuring a young woman to hand over her baby to political donors. Carla sat beside me, peeling open a protein bar with open disgust. If this is healthy food, I choose danger. I laughed. For the first time, the sound didn't get stuck in my throat. Harbor Mother's initiative was investigated. Preston and Elaine Whitaker immediately hired their own lawyer and claimed they did not know the full circumstances. Of course. Rich people tend to develop memory loss right when the moral invoice comes due. Evelyn was called in for questioning over witness intimidation and interference with adoption paperwork. When she walked out of the attorney's office, she still wore cream, still wore pearls, still looked at me like I was a stain on a tablecloth. But this time, I did not look down. "You destroyed your family," she said. I looked right at her. "No, I just opened a window. The smell was already there." She had no answer for that. Honestly, I had waited my entire marriage to say it. Shame there was no background music, but the family court parking lot did its best with a car horn. The divorce took 3 months. Ryan tried to paint me as an unstable, jealous, dangerous pregnant wife. My lawyer simply placed one thing after another in front of him. The email he sent my doctor, the prepared divorce papers, the 2 a.m. call, the evidence that he demanded the note, his messages with Mia, and the donor names in the adoption file. Ryan didn't have his good man's smile anymore. No stage lights, no reporters, no mother beside him adjusting his collar. Just a cold room, a recorder, and the truth sitting across from him like a woman who was no longer afraid. Mia was protected during the legal process. She did not become my best friend. Life does not turn into a cheap Hallmark movie that fast. But I didn't hate her anymore. Some wounds don't need a hug to heal. They just need to stop being pressed on. The baby was placed in safe care while the court reviewed Mia's rights. The first time I saw him again, he was asleep, both tiny hands curled like he was holding the secrets of the whole world. I touched the edge of his blue blanket and cried very quietly. 7 weeks later, I gave birth to my daughter. I named her Hope, which I know is a little cheesy. Carla said it sounded like a coffee shop that charges too much for muffins. I kept it anyway, because after everything, Hope was the one thing Ryan didn't get to take. One afternoon, I brought Hope to Fire Station 18. California's sunlight fell across the safe surrender sign outside the station. I stood there without my wedding ring, my shoulders tired, my hair messy, milk on my shirt, but my heart lighter than it had been in years. I used to think my job was to save my marriage. Turns out my real job was to save myself. And on that rainy night, a desperate mother placed her baby outside a fire station. But somehow, she saved me too. A year after that rainy night, I returned to Fire Station 18 with a baby on my hip, a box of cupcakes in my hand, and a level of sleep deprivation that no concealer at Target could possibly fix. Hope was almost 1. She had huge eyes, round cheeks, and a habit of yanking my hair whenever she disagreed with the world. In other words, she was undeniably my daughter. Carla saw us from the garage and came out immediately, holding a wrench, her face serious like she was about to respond to a major fire. "Give me the baby," she said. "Nice to see you too." "I see you all the time. Hand over the cuter creature." I handed Hope to Carla. My daughter immediately smiled, betraying her biological mother with impressive professionalism. I set the cupcakes on the break room table, where the smell of burned coffee remained a toxic tradition nobody had the courage to end. The safe surrender sign outside had been replaced. Cleaner. Brighter. Beneath it, there was now a small line about where women could find legal support, medical help, and emergency housing. Detective Ramirez had helped push that through. I didn't know how many people would ever need to read it, but I knew that if even one person read it at the right moment, it mattered. Mia came that day too. She walked into the station with short hair, a pale blue shirt, and the baby boy in a stroller. His name was Caleb. He was chubbier now, healthier, and chewing on a rubber giraffe with the seriousness of a lawyer in court. Mia looked at me, hesitant. There was no cinematic hug between us. No fake, everything is behind us now. Some things don't pass. They just stop bleeding every time you learn how to bandage them better. "Hi," she said. "Hi." Hope reached for Caleb. Caleb looked at her, then threw the rubber giraffe onto the floor like a very early marriage proposal. Carla looked at them and said, "No. I am not being a bridesmaid for the next generation of this drama." I laughed. Mia laughed too, small, but real. As for Ryan, he left San Diego after the divorce settlement was finalized. His political campaign ended before it ever really began. Harbor Mother's initiative shut down and was replaced by a supervised program. I heard he took a communications job for some private company in Arizona. I didn't look into it. Some people leave your life, and the best thing you can do is not open the window to watch them go. Evelyn sent me a card on Hope's birthday. No apology. Just one sentence. "I hope she is raised in peace." I read it and put it in a drawer. I didn't tear it up. I didn't display it. Maybe that was the grown-up version of me. Not burning everything, but also not keeping it close to my heart. That afternoon, when the sun dropped over the fire station roof, I carried Hope outside. The ocean breeze moved through the street, carrying the smell of salt, gasoline, and a city that kept living. I looked at the safe surrender sign. A year ago, I thought it was where a mother left her child. Now I understand it differently. Sometimes it is where a woman uses the last of her strength to choose life. For her baby. For herself. And sometimes for another woman she never knew would need saving. Hope rested her head against my shoulder, one tiny hand gripping my collar. I kissed her hair and whispered, "I'm here." Not a promise to Ryan, not a vow in a church, not paperwork that a lawyer could twist, just the truth. I am here. And this time, no one gets to silence me.